I'll start off by saying that crude is now over $110 a barrel after Trump's disastrous speech yesterday. Markets are tanking. It's and a good chance we have a ground invasion tomorrow. Let's wait and see for that. One of the things Trump has apparently asked the Pentagon to prepare is a plan to go seize Iranian's nuclear material, which would be an impossible mission. But because the president asks, Pentagon has prepared for it, and we're going to see some of that preparation here.
And or months to actually carry out this mission. And a lot of people obviously think
Trump considers risky commando plan to seize uranium.
that that's totally crazy. But what's even crazier is that it could even be in the works. Remember, the 82nd Airborne is there. You've got special operations units. But we wanted to flag this. This is a viral video that came out from San Diego. Can we go and put this video up here on the screen, where a user actually took this video of excavators that were moving via train to the naval boatyards in San Diego. They said, look, we don't know obviously why all this equipment is moving in, but you could see that it was very clearly moving on the train to potentially good reason. You know, there's a lot of use for military assets and for things like that. But don't forget, San Diego, all of the special operations forces and conventional forces that are all stationed there, not to mention the naval base. So we did want to flag it as, at the very least, you can see some of this type of equipment, which is making its way.
So possibly they're preparing to send excavators and stuff to Iran. Possibly. That it could be something else, but in any case, it's amazing that this plan is even be considered. There's absolutely no way it would ever work in the open Google Earth. There are mountains which supposedly have Iran's enriched uranium are deep inland. And the country of 93 million with basically 2 million fighting force men, and you think you can go in and seize a mountain and then excavate into the mountain and retrieve the nuclear material? It's just insane. And next, which I thought was very important.
He was telling our allies that in 4 days, the whole thing would be over. And when it wasn't, was like, okay, what now? So
yes, apparently he was telling our allies before the war that it would be over in 3 days.
Maybe he wants to get out of this thing, but he actually can't take the humiliation that would be.
And we can see this confirmed by this clip, which shall explain.
Involved in just walking away, with Iran having scored a major strategic victory in terms of taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, something he also talked about in this speech, again, going with this line of like, well, the people who really rely on it, they should come in, they should cherish it.
Yes. Again, to take the Strait of Hormuz by anyone, United States or Europe or anything, would require months and months of preparation to get the troops in place, to even make an attempt. And that's not counting the amount of time the fighting would take. And by the time where you'd get like 100,000, 200,000 troops in the area, which is what you need to even make an attempt to take the Strait of Hormuz, 6, 8, 10 months will have already passed. So the world economy will already be shit. That's the problem. You need to prepare to take the Strait of Hormuz before you bomb the Supreme Leader. That's the only way you could reasonably expect it to be open in a competent time frame. If you had 200,000 troops ready to go the day Supreme Leader died, then you could begin operations, and you could probably get the Strait of Hormuz open within a matter of months. But taking horrible casualties probably in the process, because it's the era of drone warfare.
He said they should come in and they should take it over, and we've done the hard part, so good luck to you all. But in any
No, the hard part is unblocking the Strait of Hormuz.
case, as evidence of how this is all just improvised and there really is no strategy and the goals here change day to day, let's take a listen to a little bit of this leaked video where
This is leaked video, so it's nice to have this like officially confirmed now by this leaked video.
admits he thought it would be over in 3 days.
I said, you have 2 old, broken-down aircraft carriers. You think you could send them over? Oh, I'll have to ask my team. I said, you're the prime minister. You don't have... No. I have to ask my team, President. My team has to meet. We're meeting next week. Oh, next week? But the war already started next week. It's not good. The war's going to be over in 3 days. My prediction, it turns out. By the way, do we have the greatest military ever?
So he was telling our allies that, yeah, you can't, if you bring in your aircraft carrier a week after the war starts, it'll be too late. The war will already be over. He honestly thought the war would be 3 days. Isn't that retarded? That's, I now am so sad. I was sad before, but now I'm extra sad that Charlie Kirk died. He was against the Iran war, and he was one of the few people in a position to actually talk to Trump and get common sense through to him that this would be an absolute disaster. We would not be at war with Iran if Charlie Kirk had lived. And so that's an extra layer of pain due to the fact that he died.
Going to be over in 3 days. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. And now he's saying it's going to be over in 2 weeks. I don't think that's going to happen either, Sagar.
Yeah, and actually probably the most significant piece of video, and just to explain, basically, this was a White House Easter lunch. It was not open to the press. Obviously, though, the White House filmed the whole thing. They accidentally uploaded the whole video to YouTube for maybe only 5 minutes. But in that time, enough people were able to download the full video, and so they could get some of the clips of the president talking, at least somewhat more candidly.
So, president talking candidly, he thought the war would be over in 3 days. Yeah, that sucks. It sucks. And that confirms everything it was obvious from the outside, but it's nice to have confirmation. There was no plan whatsoever to deal with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. That's obvious. And this is why.
Than he would necessarily. And this one, you are going to see this everywhere. Here is Donald Trump saying why we can't have daycare or Medicare or Medicaid because the purpose of the government is to fight war. That's about as unpopular and as opposite to his original message and his campaigns as you could possibly get. Let's take a listen.
Yeah.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't.
We should not be fighting this war. Fuck this war. The people elected you to take care of America. America first. Why the fight? Because I guarantee you right now, he's spending like 80% of his time dealing with the Iran war situation. That means all of his domestic priorities have fallen by the wayside because of this idiotic, retarded war. And yeah, I am absolutely furious. I mean, it's going to completely stem all of his things he was doing domestically. It is by distracting him, and it's going to hurt him politically, which is going to hurt his ability to do anything. So, yeah, Trump presidency got ended by this idiotic war.
Can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare.
Okay, you could say this clip wouldn't be half as bad if we weren't at war with Iran, with you wasting our time, resources, everything on this retarded war that we're losing. We attacked Iran to make it stronger. Every possible objective that's been said to attack Iran, it's going to have the opposite effect. Iran's going to become a nuclear power. It's going to become stronger. It's going to become more dominant in the region. It's going to hurt our interests. It's going to hurt our allies in the region. It already has done all these things. And we're going to have a humiliating, basically surrender to Iran to get the Straits of Hormuz open. That's not going to happen for a while because it has to be a bunch load of economic pain around the world before, like, once you have every world leader screaming at Trump, get the Strait of Hormuz open, which, like, 1 or 2 months from now, then they'll probably be forced to negotiate. And maybe, so I'd say maybe 3 or 4 months. On the optimistic side, we can maybe have the Strait of Hormuz open. Yeah, but that's still optimistic. More likely, Iran will keep it closed for 6 months and tank Republicans in the midterms. I don't honestly believe that the Strait of Hormuz will remain permanently closed more than 6 months. I think that that will achieve Iran's objectives. It'll be enough to get Trump impeached by giving Democrats midterms. And after that point, they've established deterrence. So they don't need to keep it closed more than 6 months. So they'll be much, much, much more open to negotiations a few months from now. So it's the worst case scenario about Straits of Hormuz remaining closed for years. I don't think that's a realistic possibility. What might be a really realistic possibility, and is still a big concern, is escalation. We bomb their oil infrastructure, they bomb the oil infrastructure across the Gulf, and you just have a huge part of the oil producing industry in that part of the world offline for 3 to 5 years. That is the real risk. The Strait of Hormuz, that will open, I think, in maybe 6 months or so. That's huge pain during that time, but the real danger is escalation.
Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing: military protection.
Yes, I'm sorry, but Trump has been captured by the deep state, because that is what you would ask Bush, Clinton, all things. Yeah, during his first term, that wasn't his opinion at all. He wasn't doing military ventures. He was focused on domestic, and all his attempts to do anything were stymied. But he didn't get to build his wall, really, only a small part of it. But at least he was focused on the right place. Now he's just another deep state candidate. I think it's not. He's changed maybe a little, but it's mostly the deep state has successfully surrounded him with their agents again, because at least in terms of international, he is indistinguishable from now a Bush or Clinton.
We have to take care of one thing: military protection. So
military protection, and you're failing completely at that too, by the way. I'm saying that if we attack their oil infrastructure, Iran would retaliate and attack oil across the Gulf, and then we have $200 oil for the next 3 years, and it's not a fun time. And yes, we need that oil. Yeah, we need that oil. It's starting to go up a lot in England, isn't it? Can we get Joe Biden back? Honestly, do you really want Joe Biden? There's a good chance this Iran war would have happened with Joe Biden too. I mean, he didn't have a functioning brain, and he supported Israel a lot. I wouldn't gamble that maybe someone which actually had the functioning brain like that. We don't have this Iran war. I don't. The Gaza went on all of Biden's term. I wouldn't trust him to not attack Iran. Yeah, but Joe Biden wouldn't get into the war because he sleeps. Well, someone was making decisions to support Joe Biden, and so someone might have decided to do the Iran war. This Iran war happened right now, I believe, because Israel had infiltrated Iran and had this Carney guy, this head of their special covert operations. The head of covert operations in Iran was a Mossad agent. And he's how we assassinated Supreme Leader, etc. And they thought they could use him for regime change. Now, even if Biden had been president, they would have been pushing for this war too now, at this time, because they had this agent. And just given the power of the Israeli lobby, if you have a brain-dead guy like Joe Biden in the office, they might have steamrolled into this Iran war anyway. You want somebody with a functioning brain if you want this war prevented. No, because Trump has lost all of his credibility because his first period, he was actually a good president. Yeah, he didn't start any wars in his first term. He changed drastically. You know, I said it just a few minutes ago. If Charlie Kirk hadn't died, we probably wouldn't be in this war. He was the one person that had huge influence on Donald Trump and would never have gone along with the Iran war, and he probably would have put an end to it. Let's move on to the next video. I thought this was an interesting little tidbit.
Is that the reason that we couldn't do anything about North Korea getting a nuclear weapon is because of the location of Pyongyang, right? They're within artillery range of North Korea. So if they tried to prevent
China's backing North Korea. We can't go in.
No, but the point that I'm
They
making
were
is
going in. The IAE, they kicked them out. Or,
yeah, but the reason they could,
yeah.
the reason they could, the main reason they couldn't, because they couldn't
The reason they couldn't go after the nuclear program in North Korea was
even gamble on trying to, is because if they tried to strike North Korea can just use artillery and wipe out 10 million people in
Seoul.
They'd kill tens of thousands with just artillery.
And so what
and this point that he's making here, and it's a terrible point, I'll explain why in a second, is that's the reason we couldn't go after nuclear program in North Korea. And they're saying this was our chance to well, I'll let him say it.
What the goal is here is to prevent Iran from achieving that kind of weapons capacity with conventional weapons, for making it too costly.
And it was already reached that point. Iran has already reached the point where they can level all the oil infrastructure in the Gulf and wreck the global economy. They have something far more devastating than North Korea ever had. If the oil infrastructure in the Gulf is destroyed, millions, tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions will starve because of the economic disruptions. Their ability to take out the oil infrastructure in the Gulf is more dangerous than any nuke. It should have been more of a deterrent than if Iran actually had a nuke, because they can kill more people that way than a nuke ever could. Keir Starmer is better than Donald Trump at this point. And then back when he was appointed, I didn't think that. I think Keir Starmer is still pretty damn terrible. And just worse than Donald Trump is Donald Trump. It's funny. It's just one absolutely catastrophic mistake on Donald Trump's part. That's all it took to basically end his presidency. If he just didn't do this Iran war, his presidency on the whole, I think, would have been, on the whole, more positive than negative. On the whole, it's just this Iran war, one decision, more than wipes out anything else that's good. Yeah. There's an oil strike happening in England. He's not as bad as Trump when you compare it, though, because he makes decent decisions, unlike Trump. Well, did he prevent Trump from going to war with Iran? Did he manage to do that? Because if he was making decent decisions, he would have prevented Trump from attacking Iran, wouldn't he? I mean, he's the British Prime Minister. He has a lot of sway. He could have stopped Trump from attacking Iran. No, he's siding with Trump. So how can you say he's better when he's part of the group that made the mistake? It's only for political purposes that he didn't come out and openly support Trump's decision to bomb the Supreme Leader. But he supported the decision privately. It's just the public hates it, so that's why he's not saying it publicly. Also, Keir Starmer would not get England involved in a war with the U.S. because we would be doomed. Well, obviously, because there's no public. Keir Starmer is basically a failed prime minister at this point. He has no public support, and he can't send UK troops into a conflict where they'll die in high numbers. And he would be outed before he could even give the final order. So it's not that he won't send troops in; it's that he can't. He just can't. He just doesn't have the political capital at this point to do anything. We can get Boris Johnson back at Prime Minister. Boris Johnson is the one who, when Ukraine and Russia hashed out an agreement to end the Ukraine war 3 years ago, that before, hundreds of thousands of people died, he was the one who went in and torched that agreement and told Ukraine, don't negotiate with Russia, just fight. And I'll just say that hundreds of thousands on both sides have died because of that on the Ukraine war. So I don't particularly like Boris Johnson because of his role in that. And if you're thinking he would be against the Iran war, given how he is in Ukraine, he is how he torched peace in Ukraine. I would not trust him to be a positive influence on this situation in the Middle East. Yeah, he's very well known for breaking deals and fighting in it anyway. Exactly. Do you really want someone like... Do we really need another person like that in the whole Iran situation? They've already betrayed Iran 2 times during the negotiations. Yeah, we don't need more people that are known for breaking deals. Because I think Putin would have bombed Ukraine. Well, if you looked at what Putin has done, what Russia has done, it has been very measured in terms of even when missiles that are made in the UK, brought to Ukraine, shot by basically Western intelligence agencies. We're using Western intelligence, basically no Ukrainian involvement, and they're shooting these missiles into Russia. Russia hasn't responded by bombing like factories in the UK that are making these Storm Shadow missiles. It hasn't responded when CIA and MI6 do these smuggled drones into Russia and attack strategic bombers. I mean, that's not Ukraine. That is Western intelligence agencies basically using Ukraine as a proxy to do all types of attacks, assassinations, attempts against Putin himself, against his generals. We're doing all of that in Russia, and they have not escalated the war in Ukraine to beyond Ukraine. Thank God Putin is in charge, or we would be in World War III with the amount of provocations the West has been doing against Russia. And speaking of people not happy with Trump,
when your ankles swell up 3 times the size they were before, that means heart failure. And he does look sick. And he does babble and, sound like the brain's not doing too hot.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I think that he's not as fit as he was during his first presidency. That much is sure. But I don't think he's anywhere near Biden level. What I do think is that after he was tricked into doing this war, which he was told, we saw in that clip, he honestly believed the war would be over in 3 days. Now, I have to tell you, yes, some of that is on Trump, but a lot of that is on who is around Trump. If all those around Trump were telling him that this would be over in 3 days, Trump was misled into this war. There is a big amount of blame on people around him that he should not have never had that impression. Why did Trump believe this is over in 3 days? He's not an expert on international relations. Someone told him that. Who was telling them that? Netanyahu, whatever. Yes, of course. Everyone in the group that was telling him it was going to be over in 3 days bears huge responsibility for this. Anyhow, but after he bombed Supreme Leader and then he found out the truth, I'd just say it's just the stress. I mean, he must not. I knew his presidency was over the moment he dropped that bomb, and he's been slowly coming to that realization too, that he's trapped, there's no way out, and he's fucked. And my God, the amount of stress he's probably under, it would make anyone look sick.
And so we just cut bait on Trump, and we just mobilize against the Democrats. This is not funny. This is not good.
Obama getting replaced by Trump and Biden and then Trump again was a mistake. Well, this Iran war was in the work for a long time. And I'm not convinced at all that if Kamala Harris had been elected, we wouldn't also be in this Iran war. I think there's a very good chance. Good chance of that. So if Israel truly believed they could do regime change and have Venezuela moment, they would have pressured any president to do that. What we needed is someone like first-term Trump that wasn't going to start any foreign wars. That's what we needed. I don't think either candidate this time around would have, were good in terms of the Iran war.
But he's gone. And that's it.
Trump believed that fighting Iran would make America great again because he didn't want to fight Iran. He thought this was a 3-day war. He didn't want to be in a long-term war with Iran. He absolutely did not want that. He thought this was like Venezuela. People convinced him to do Venezuela because they told him it'd be a quick operation with no U.S. casualties, and that's what it was. And so it was fine, and people like Asmongold were supportive of it. This Iran was sold to him in the same way by Netanyahu. Just bomb supreme leader, and there'll be regime change. You'll just be the hero who made Iran democratic again and pro-Western, and everything will be fantastic. He was sold a fantasy. That's the problem. He did not want what we're currently in. Trump did not want that. He's been looking for a way out ever since he bombed supreme leader. But it is his fault for being tricked into this war. That clip we saw just earlier, him thinking it was a 3-day war, that is Trump being tricked into this war. And that's why I think if Charlie Kirk had been alive, he would have told Trump, no, it's not going to be a 3-day war. Your presidency is going to be finished. But yeah, it's listen to the second part, which is good.
I can't help myself. Here's a little bit more from Alex Jones.
Trump is in free fall, and that means we're in free fall in the midterms. Unless Republican candidates say, we are real America firsters. We like Trump in the past. We're sorry he's obviously had an aneurysm or something.
That's a great way to do it.
Stroke. But we're not Trump. We're going to stop the Democrats and their plan for defunding the police and open borders and transgenderism and pedophilia and men and women's sports and giant tax increases and gun confiscations. And we just say, we're the original populist Tea Party Republican.
Yes, that's what Republicans should do. They should absolutely distance themselves from Trump on Iran.
That got Trump in, just because he's been betraying us, we're not. That is the clear way out of this. We have to say, too bad Trump ran off the edge of a cliff. I don't think he's coming back from it. But triage him, isolate him.
Yeah, exactly. He went off an edge of a cliff when he attacked Iran. Absolutely. I think it's not all on Trump. It's some Trump, but mostly decision makers behind the screen and others. Exactly. But at the end of the day, politically, Trump, the buck stops with him. He's the supreme leader of the United States. It's his job to prevent World War III and to not, and he failed. He got us into this round. Hopefully, it doesn't escalate to World War III, but it's on the road to World War III now. It was his job to stop this, to stop the insane war-pushing people, and he failed. He got captured by them, and they sold him nonsense, and he believed the nonsense. He should have focused on America first. He should be focused on America. We should not be bombing supreme leaders in the Middle East. He should be worried about the border.
And explain, we're not him, and we're not the Democrats 10 times worse. We're not the Democrats 10 times worse, and we're not him, and we're morally against this, and blowing up Iranian water supplies he's talking about, war crime any way you cut it. Put pressure on him not to do that. And just continue on the moral, proper way to behave. Not stick our finger in the wind and see which way it's blowing.
I agree with Alex Jones. On this, I'm on the exact same page as him. Let's continue on.
It seems to me that things are going out, playing out pretty much as he said. And just to remind people, he spoke about enormous stresses in the financial markets, enormous stresses in the global economy. And he and Cyrus also told us that China, contrary to what many people assumed, would probably come out all right. Well, Alex, we are now further in.
China has a strategic fertilizer reserve. I was amazed when I heard that. It's like the only country in the world probably that has a strategic fertilizer reserve. So and 35% of the world's fertilizer comes from the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, and that's been cut off. And so they're one of the countries best situated to weather this. And also Russia, that is a producer of fertilizer and oil and everything. It's benefit too. So Russia and China, big winners out of this.
We've had a speech from the President of the United States, an address to the American people, which has caused great dismay here in London, at least.
Yep.
People were expecting more. They were expecting some idea as to how this would end. The markets appeared to have acted negatively.
Yeah, his message, just go open the Strait of Hormuz yourself. Oh, my God. The Strait of Hormuz was open until you decided to bomb Supreme Leader. And also, the Strait of Hormuz alone, it invalidates any message about Iran's nuclear program. It doesn't matter. Strait of Hormuz being closed is going to kill more people than any nuclear bomb ever could. In terms of starvation throughout Africa and other poor nations. Oh yeah, more people would die to this, and could, even if all of Iran's nuclear material was turned into bombs and used, still less people would die than if the Strait of Hormuz was remained opened.
This after weeks of the president and his officials trying to reassure the markets, giving them the impression that everything was going to end and end soon. But that didn't seem to be what he was offering in this speech. Where are we?
It's like a bad nightmare. The President of the United States is playing a game of either truth or dare or a game of chicken with the world economy here. And it's the average, I would say, let's start.
It's desperation on Trump's part. It's why he's looking so tired and sick. He's trapped. He has no way out. And he's just flailing. He's just flailing wildly. His speech last night is another example of this. It's the reason why we hit a desalination plant. We hit we hit the oil. Every time we hit something there, they turn around and attack something similarly important in the Gulf. And they says, oh, we can't do that anymore. It's too painful for us because Iran has escalation dominance. The latest thing is they bombed a very important bridge in Iran. They bombed an important bridge in Iran. Now let's think. What does that mean? An important bridge in Iran. Well, I'll show you what. You see this little nation called Bahrain here? See this here? A bridge connecting it to Saudi Arabia? Sort of an extremely important bridge for Bahrain? Well, Trump and Israel has just given Iran the perfect opportunity to destroy it. Excuse. And they probably will target and destroy this bridge now. And this will hurt Bahrain 100 times more than that one bridge will hurt Iran. That's what I mean by escalation dominance. It means we blow up something in Iran, and Iran blows up something that hurts the Gulf countries 10 times more. I mean, just another part of the asymmetric nature of this is Iran hasn't been benefiting from any type of foreign investors, like U.S. companies coming in, building huge data centers or huge company headquarters in these Gulf countries. But so when the bombs start falling everywhere, that's not scaring away foreign investment out of Iran, because there was no foreign investment in Iran. So that's a whole dimension to this that Iran isn't suffering from. But all these Gulf countries, they're being just the notion that they're safe islands in the Middle East that people can invest in or go vacation in, that's being destroyed. And that's worth billions of dollars. And yeah, it's so asymmetrical. They can hurt the Gulf, our allies, far more than we can hurt them.
Start with the North American market. The average hardworking American that goes out every day to work is feeling it immediately. This is happening from importer, exporters. If you're
but that's just a pinprick so far. What we felt so far is just a pinprick compared to what's going to happen like in 1 or 2 weeks. That's when the real pain will start hitting.
Bringing in products, you're hit with the tariffs. If it's not the tariffs, then you're hit with the spiking gas prices. I mean, there are so many fundamentals that this hits, but it's going to start with the average person that wakes up every morning. Yep. They're going to say, where am I going to come up with this extra $200, $300, $400, $500 to help fill up the car? And that really takes its toll. And that's why we're seeing this go through the financial markets.
I mean, if Trump was putting America first, he would not have started a war that spikes gas prices.
Now, we used to have an administration a few weeks back cheerleading the markets prior to them opening. And the Iranians caught on to that. And just to educate people, the real war, I wouldn't say is all the bombs dropping, but the one that's happening right now is on the global financial markets. I mean, let me try to clarify what's happened here. We've seen an administration over the last few weeks cheerlead the market before it was open. Now, the average person would say, well, isn't that good news that Trump is getting up in the morning and he's saying positive things and the market should be good? Well,
honestly, I tell you what's happening a bunch with the Trump statement is that you have people in the Treasury Department and banking or whatever coming in telling him the financial system will collapse unless you do this. And he's straight up being told this. We can't, with oil, if oil goes up to 150 right now, we're fucked in the financial system. And so he is cooperating with all the market manipulating going on. I don't think he's the one getting rich from it. He's just being told that you need to say this, then, and he's just helping with the manipulation because the financial system basically is hostage at this point. I'm serious. We're going to look into that later. The chaos in derivative markets. Those derivative markets, they wouldn't even be functioning unless there was active market manipulation to manage the losses on the part of the big banks.
Well, it happened for a couple of boosts in the market, and then the market gave back all those gains immediately. Now, we have to understand that most people think the market closes when the bell on Wall Street dings at night.
No, it doesn't.
And here's where, again, and thank you very much, guys, for having me on this program. I have to nail it home to people. The derivatives market is a $900 trillion beast that is huge.
And the biggest players in that are like prime dealers, the ones that work directly with the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, and they buy, treasuries that are auctioned off, and they make the market. That means both sides, and central banks behind the scenes manipulating stuff. They also in derivative markets, but that's a whole other topic. But they make the market. Someone sells derivatives, they turn around and sell another derivative, someone else in the opposite side. They make the market in derivatives. And so, when the market doesn't go anywhere, they make a lot of money selling put and call options and stuff like that aren't in the money and stuff. But if there's a big shift in oil prices that they don't see coming, they experience catastrophic losses that could wipe out all of their equity. And they basically bankrupt. And to prevent that, you have the type of manipulation you've seen over the last 2 weeks. The fact that the manipulation is so blatant is a sign of how desperate the straits are in the financial system. The ones doing shorting the market and buying the market before these announcements, etc., are the big banks, and they're doing that to cover losses elsewhere from this sudden shift in oil prices.
Okay, it never sleeps. The market closes, yes, but this market stays open, and we have seen massive manipulation on this market.
Yes.
I would say it's almost an act of treason.
If you go back to 2008, there was the same insane manipulation in the market, like the bans on short selling of financial stocks. They did that the day before option expiration. Right before options expired, they banned the short selling in banks, and bank stocks jumped like 50%. 50%! Right before option expiration. The amount of money that those in the know made off of that is insane. It's nothing compared to what's now. The oil prices are going up, they've gone up 50% since the beginning. Yes, that one switch. But since then, it's only been going up like 10, 20% at most in a single day. But that ban on naked short selling in financial institution, like Citibank went from I think like 11 to like 22, it was nearly double. It was insane, and that's market manipulation.
To understand this, some in the U.S.
So when there's blatant manipulation like this, the financial system is under incredible strain.
Of course, they're on the left or the right. They want the MAGAs or the Dems to be wrong. In this case, everybody is going to be affected. Doesn't matter what political party you're voting for. Doesn't matter who's in power. You are going to be hit. And again, most people think that the markets are just stocks, but the derivatives market is now the real one that everybody needs to focus on. It's 10 times.
The derivative market isn't a real one. It is a huge market, but it's paper. It's the real thing is actual physical supplies. But it absorbs. Investor money are guided into the derivative market. If you buy any type of ETF or commodity fund or anything like that, your money is going into derivatives, period. And so derivative market is huge. If you had, let me put it to you this way, if they didn't manipulate the market, what would have happened already by now is some of the biggest ETFs, like the one that tracks oil, that might already be bankrupt. It had already failed because they do that through derivatives, not any type of real investment to oil. So how do they pay out to investors if oil goes up? In order for this paper market that exists over the actual real market to work, it requires constant manipulation, market manipulation. And if it's under strain, like this Iran war causes, they need much more blatant, obvious manipulation, huge scale, to keep everything running.
Times the size of the entire global GDP. Now, remember, this is America's market. They have listed companies that are publicly traded that are prison corporations. Two of the largest prison corporations in the United States are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So if we really think that this market is going to show mercy on the president because he's in a war in Iran, it's not. And this is going to be played out in the global equity market. And I'm telling you, before these markets are open, There are players in this market. They are making billions of dollars on the hardship of people's lives.
And all this market manipulation I'm talking about, it screws over the average investor. And that's the goal. That's how the U.S. financial system continues to survive. It's not just market manipulation on the side part of Trump. You have to understand, the media is complicit in this. The media is amplifying every Trump message in the direction the financial system needs in order to manipulate the market. Like if they pump and dump, like Trump makes positive statement, whatever. Okay, they buy a lot. They invest a lot in the market because they think it's going to go up. Then Trump makes a statement. Then the media amplifies that in every way they can. And then the average investors think, oh, it's over. It's a good opportunity to buy. And then market pops up. The insiders, the banking insiders make billions. And then Iran comes out and say, oh, what Trump was saying was complete nonsense. And then, yeah, the average retail investor gets screwed. That's why if you look at any type of studies of retail investors into the market, they do terribly. The retail investors get screwed because they trust the media to buy, and media says buy the stock, and the stock ends up collapsing again and again. It's why the richest 1% gets richer and richer. They're closer connected to those who are actually manipulating the market.
In Iran, that's where the money's being made. Sure, some of the military-industrial complex is making lots of money, stocking up the shelves with all the missiles that the Americans have dropped. But the financial markets, this goes on way before the market opens and way after the market closes. When the regulators have gone home, it's wide open, and we're seeing it play out here.
This is an extremely interesting and very important point, that this is the first real war, actual war, that has been fought out more in the financial markets than in any other place. Now, you spoke about manipulation. How long can this continue for? I mean, is this something that can go on indefinitely? I know some people who think that it can, that you can manipulate.
This is what I was, sorry, get this over this side. Research consistently shows that a vast majority of retail investors, often cited as over 90%, lose money, particularly when engaging in active trading or options. And the reason for this manipulation, it's the media is conspiring to fuck over the retail investors, the average investors, and it's done to funnel money back into the financial system to keep it from collapsing. It's not a natural phenomenon. If you were to look at somewhere that isn't doing this, maybe retail investors in Russia, there'd be different statistics. When you don't have a media industrial complex that's actively trying to fleece out retail investors, that's how you get such staggeringly large losses for retail investors. And that's why the richest 1% are getting richer, is that they invest more long term, and so they're less vulnerable to these market manipulations. If you're buying and holding long term, not even medium term, long term, you're much less vulnerable. You aren't vulnerable practically to these market manipulations because you're not affected by them.
And play markets indefinitely, and you can just keep things moving that way. I have to say, I find that very difficult to believe myself, but then I'm not a person who is involved in markets. Can manipulation continue indefinitely in the way that has been done?
Yes, it will, and it will do it until it breaks the bank. We saw what it did to the housing crisis and the financial crisis that Peter Schiff predicted in 2008. He was screaming from the rooftops, guys, look out, this is going down. Oh,
I was also at that same time screaming from the rooftop, this is going down. That's funny.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Schiff, we have credit default swaps. Sound familiar?
Yeah, he did so from a much larger platform and on national news, but whatever.
Well, we have that. Okay, let's look at the data from this Monday at about 6:49 a.m. And you can see this play out in the market if you're a derivatives trader or you're an option trader. If not, basically you're left out of the party. Okay, and this is where the big boys, they make a lot of the money. They are on the financial markets. Their crew is in at 6 a.m. They're putting up the trades.
If you are not someone who's connected to the big banks, that has access to that knows which direction the media and the government is planning to manipulate the market, I would not touch derivatives. It's manipulated. back when I still believed in free fair market, I actually had some put options on bank stocks, and I stupidly decided to hold on to them right up to option expiration day, and then they outlaw, they make short selling illegal, and bank stocks jump up like 50, 60, 80%, and the money I had in options went worthless, went huge amount of money up in smoke. I just, at that time, I could not believe that they would do something like so obvious market manipulation like that. I actually believed, because it was the day before option expirations, that because of that, there was no way the government would do anything, because that would be too insane.
Even before, mom and pa are waking up looking at the 401k, these guys have made their moves. And here's a move that was a fact that happened on the market. In a single minute of pre-market trading, over $600 million in oil futures were traded on Monday. Okay. Now that's a $580 million that has moved in about 60 seconds. Okay. That's a lot of cash coming in to the option and derivatives market. Now, the timing of this, 15 minutes later, bam, Trump posts his piece reversal on True Social. The price of oil collapsed. The mystery trader, he then shorts that market, whether it's using a derivative or using an option.
Exactly.
He nets hundreds of millions of dollars in profits before anybody's even waking up having coffee in the morning. So, if you do that enough time.
Banking, the financial sector in the United States is very unhealthy behind the scenes. They need these type of profits to make up for losses, especially the losses that are coming because of this Iran war, and the losses that already the oil price spike would have caused in the derivative market. Yeah. And you're going to see continual market manipulation as long as this Iran war is going on, because at this point, the only way to keep the financial system afloat is to do big market manipulation like they've been doing. That level of market manipulations where the banks make billions to make up for the losses elsewhere.
If you slam the market enough time, it's going to play out. And it is playing out. Now, let me talk to you guys. You might say, well, the police should be called. The regulators should be called.
The thing is, it is the government that is doing this as to prop up the financial sector, without a single doubt. And when that's the logic, I'm sure there's some people on the sides that are making tons of money. That is true. But the primary reason for doing it is to prop up the banks.
The Security Exchange Commission only has the power to civilly charge someone, not criminal charges, civil charges in the United States. Okay, so they go after a guy. Oh, you made $800 million on this. Okay, well, we caught you. We caught you. Okay, well, how about of that $800 million, I hire 10 of the greatest lawyers in litigation and security lawyers in the United States, give them $100 million to defend me. The SEC doesn't have, that much resources to go against it. It usually ends in a settlement. The settlement is never paid out, and we move on. The only other flip side to this is if we get the
He's completely corrupt, in other words.
Department of Justice involved. Well, I think Pam Bondi is too focused on cheerleading the Dow.
Pam Bondi is out, by the way. She's gone now. Bye-bye. I'm not sad at all. She failed on the Epstein files, and but I still think I'm curious. There's either two possibilities: either she's compromised the deep state, or there is some compromising material on fake, controversial material on Trump in the Epstein files that she has been trying to release some of it and not release that, and there's that dimension. I don't know. There's something going on there with Pam Bondi in one way or another. I'm still convinced, because I've seen things, leaks of this already, that there has been accusations against Trump added to what's called the Epstein files. And it is a plan to use that to hurt him during the midterms. I'd say at this point, it doesn't even matter. Iran war is going to, after that's done, whatever is in the Epstein files against Trump, it doesn't even... He can't get more unpopular than he's going to get anyway.
Oh, she needs to get it back to 50,000, where she loved raving about it before. And that's it. So the cowboys are out there, and, no one's immune to this, Alexander. It's incredible. This is really hurting people. And the average person, they wake up, they're looking at their stock portfolio, and they're going, what happened? I thought it was over. He said everything is cooled in the market. Now, my last point to this is the Iranians have caught on to this. And they have saw this manipulation in the market. And if they're smart, which they are, they're probably playing it too, saying, okay, you can go and cheerlead the market. It'll move up pre-market. We'll short it. And then after you're done your cheerleading, Mr. Trump, or, the administration, we'll come out and we'll say we deny it. And this is what's driving them crazy, because you saw these vast moves in the market. 2 hours later, as soon as the market comes in, the Iranians get on there and say, what are you talking about? We're not talking to anybody. And boom, down the market goes again. So, and I just want to clarify to people that, the derivatives market and the option market we have a nickname here, okay? We call it the crystal ball for most people here. It's kind of like a locked door. And the really big banks, the big five, the big six, they really dominate this space.
Exactly. Prime dealers, the ones that interact directly with the U.S. Treasury. They are the source. They're the ones that are being propped up.
And pretty much most of the public are in the dark. I mean, most people don't they say, what do you mean options, derivatives? I heard, we should stay away from those. Having spent...
You should, absolutely, because the market is manipulated. And options, they're ultra vulnerable to manipulations. I'm not going to go into it now, but unless you're the one manipulating the market, if you engage in options, there's 99% chance you're going to lose.
20 years in Monaco trading, at the highest level in Monte Carlo. I've seen firsthand how these banks are getting in front of people. I would say it's a rigged game, but there is hope. And that hope is, people can get educated in this space. It's the only, and I would say if you're playing the market, if you're involved in the market, which most people are, it's the only lifeline to do it. And we have to battle back.
No, if you're going to invest in the market, do so for the long term. Buy like gold, like now during the dip, and then ignore little swings and just keep it until it goes up a lot.
Because we are in a whole new world here, and we've seen it from...
I don't think gold's going much lower than it is currently, by the way. So it is a good time to buy.
Administration just manipulating the markets right in front of our eyes. You guys have seen it. I've seen you guys tweet about it. It's all over the place. And it's incredible. Back to you, sir.
So let's talk about the situation in the real economy. There's a report this morning in London which predicts that in Britain we're going to have 10% inflation over the next few weeks. Some say
10% inflation. Oh boy, people are not going to like that. If they've got 10% in the UK, there's going to be similar inflation in the United States.
Terrible, dangerous.
We're heading to stagflation, maybe stag depression.
Estimate. There's worries about what that means for interest rates. There's also supply shortages now starting to increase across Asia. We've had reports that over the next week or so, Africa is going to start being affected. And then from about late April, we're going to have supply shortages in Europe too. Is this true? I mean, is this your own assessment that this is correct? And if we start getting that kind of inflation and those kind of shortages and situations where economies begin to shut down, and there are talks about people going on already, apparently it's happening in some countries in Asia, short-time working, extended holidays for workers, that kind of thing, and rationing. If we start getting things like that beginning to happen, can the financial markets, despite all of this manipulation, can the derivatives markets continue to remain buoyant or act?
As long as they're manipulating thing, yes, the derivative markets won't collapse just yet.
In the way that they have been doing over the last few weeks.
Well, there is in other words,
but non-insiders are going to be losing their shirts.
Is the connection between the real economy, what people call the real economy, the economy people live in, and the financial economy that we've just been discussing?
Well, there is some good news. If this war stops, we can...
It won't, at least not for, I don't think it... Earliest I could see it stopping is like 2 or 3 months from now. That's really a 1% chance.
I'll be saved. if that's any words of encouragement. If this continues on for another 3 or 4 weeks, as predicted on your show a few weeks back.
My timeline, at least 2 or 3 months. And okay.
We will start to tread towards $150 a barrel.
Yes.
And that is going to be biblical, okay? That's going to be biblical in the financial markets. And that is going to, fall all the way down to the average person that wakes up in the morning and goes to work. I always say it.
And you're going to see even more blatant market manipulations even as this oil prices goes up, as it's necessary. Otherwise, those prime dealers. That the Treasury needs those prime dealers to buy U.S. Treasuries so it can fund the federal government. So it can't let those prime dealers go under.
Hundreds of times, the average hardworking American or the average hardworking British person, this is going to hit their pocketbooks.
By the way, prime dealers is a name given to all the banks that directly interact with the Treasury. I guess I hadn't said that before.
I'm seeing it even in China here. It's not massive yet. Most of the prices are under control, but we are starting to see some costs of certain items gradually move up. Now, if we look at how devastating this can be, just ask Cuba, which is, I think, 90 kilometers off the coast of America. What happens when your economy runs out of gas? Well, the lights go out. You try to salvage
It's not pretty.
whatever you can. Well, we're not far away from that. Now, the administration in the United States, I'm no longer going to call him the commander-in-chief. I'm going to call him the traitor-in-chief.
Don't be cute like this.
Because Trump thinks this is a big game here that he can.
No, he doesn't think it's a big game. He was given bad advice. He thought this war would be over in 3 days, like we saw earlier. And he's just getting fucked by this crisis, more than everyone else, probably, in the long run. His presidency is over. He'll be impeached. And one way the Democrats try to go after his money and stuff, it won't be good for him.
Can settle, by choking off the Iranians from their own gas to thinking that he can control the Strait of Hormuz. It's not like that. This is a guy who's first in and first out of any trade, but he's got it wrong here. So they said, okay, we're gonna crush oil. This was about
no one explained to him that you can't get out of Iran quickly.
10 days ago when he looked at the oil market and said, we got lots of barrels of oil in reserve. Let's bring 400 million barrels in. That should really calm the prices down to the mid-60s, mid-70s, no problem. Didn't happen. In fact, the price went up. And they're, saying, well, wait a minute. We brought 400 million barrels of oil. It should have depressed this market. Well, when you cut off 20 million per day, you do the calculations, and people can go back and look at my tweet that I did a few weeks back, and I predicted here around the April 5th or 6th, within 20 days, if you're cutting off 20 million barrels coming out of Iran and you're short, well, that 400 million barrels of oil is going to run out in 20 days. And that brings us up to the first week in April here. Well, how much do we have in reserve in the world? We probably got another billion barrels of oil. Sounds like a lot, but it's not. Okay. Maybe another 30, 40 days. The problem with that then is when that runs out, we better have other VLCCs sitting inside there, pumping more oil in to bring them back. The problem is the ships aren't even going in there. Some are coming.
Yeah, it's even if it all ended today, there's huge disruptions. Also, it'll take time to get all these pumps back online, even if the Strait of Hormuz opens. Yeah, it's not going to be. This isn't the chance of a small disruption. I think that went away like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Coming out, but they're not going in. So by the time you get these cargoes, these VLCCs in there to bring it out, we're talking, I don't know, I'm going to be generous here, 60, 90 days. And then voila, what happens? Your 10%, your 15%, your 20% inflation happens. And that's exactly, Alexander, what you have just mentioned is coming to an economy near you. And unless the Americans, bite their tongue, turn around, get the hell out of there, they are going to literally bring down the world economy, and it will happen.
That's what it will happen. It's too late. We bombed their supreme leader. We killed their pope. And that's going to be their retaliation. And they could bring down the world economy to get revenge on Trump. Cost him the midterms, get him impeached. No changing that course. That's the course we're on. There's nothing that can change it.
Want it to happen. It's devastating, but people need to prepare for it.
If we start getting inflation of that kind, what happens to interest rates? If it's the question I get all the time, people ask me, bear in mind, we are in economy.
The interest rates go negative. They can't afford to have interest rates go too high. So you're going to have interest rates. They'll be pushed up, but not enough. They'll be like the 10-year bond. I think it'll be underneath the inflation rate at some point in the near future.
Economies in Britain, in Europe.
And that's because of market manipulation. It's because the U.S. Treasury sells interest rate swaps and stuff like that to keep its lending costs down. I can get into that a different stream. it's a very interesting and scary topic.
United States, where people are heavily in debt now. I mean, people are worried about interest rates. If prices are rising, that's already going to cut into their incomes.
That's right.
If interest rates rise also, and they're going to have to pay on more on their debts too. I mean, it's going to be a very, very cruel, hard double whammy for both people. What happens? I mean, are we going to see interest rates go up? I've seen some people say that central banks should not increase interest rates because it would be a mistake to do that. If they do increase interest rates, what effect does that also have on financial markets, on the derivative?
The United States really can't afford to finance itself at 6-7% interest rates on its 10-year treasuries. I mean, especially during a recession, the federal debt will start exploding at such an exponential rate because we'll be selling debt just to pay interest. And that's why.
Hello, this is Eric.
If you think that they can't control interest rates, have a look at this. This is how they're controlling interest rates right now. This is a Federal Reserve transcript that was released back in 2008. And you can have a look at it. It's in my Market Skeptic playlist on my channel. Basic idea behind the strategy is to offset portfolio losses with a corresponding gain in the value of put. This is how institutional investors in the United States have been trained to invest, like your pensions, your funds, etc. Is you can buy risky bonds, but then you can buy protection to make it, if the value of those bonds go down, you're covered. And if this protection is available, then you're willing to buy bond for lower. They give a lower yield because you're protected. Cost-effective way to protect against a sharp rise in nominal interest rates is, therefore, to buy put options on those bonds. So that's, again, the strategy. This is in the Federal Reserve transcript, what I'm reading here. We could sell put options on long-term Treasury securities at strike prices associated with long-term yields. That is how they're controlling long-term interest rates at this point in time, with all these inflationary pressures and with the huge amount the government has to fund. Is like people, you hear him, 10% inflation coming. Oh my God, what if the value of the long-term 10-year treasuries goes down because of that? So what could you do? You could do one, sell your treasury holdings, or you could go out and buy put options on treasuries just to protect yourself in case the 10-year treasury yields, start going up to protect your value of your treasury securities. And people doing this have no idea that the person on the other side of the trade is the U.S. government. U.S. government's basically selling protection, insurance on its own debt. It's the biggest scam possible. And that's what they're... But it also means that if the interest rates do go up, you could have absolute chaos, like the Federal Reserve forced to print trillions of dollars to make good on whatever derivative contracts the Treasury and Fed is doing behind the scenes. It's a complete mess.
Derivatives markets especially.
Yeah, interest rates is a real touchy one. It's a powder cake. If you get it wrong, most doubtably, people are going to suffer for the next quarter or 2 quarters or 3 quarters as they structure their life. It really is down to interest rates. Let's look at this market. We have the trader-in-chief Trump who says, okay, you know what? It's okay to have a 40-year mortgage. Now, he might roll out the idea of, you know what, America, it's okay to have a 50-year mortgage. It's fine. Throw another 10 years on your mortgage. Doesn't matter if you get bumped up, 6, 7, 8%. Roll it over 50 years. Everything's fine. Well, it's not. And the system's eventually going to break here. It can't handle this economy. These economies are so fragile coming out of the pandemic that they were just getting going again. They're just starting to get inflation under control. And what do? You take on the Iranians in their backyard? Are you nuts? Okay. And of course, this is going to spill into the financial markets. You see, most people think, okay, it's just the gas pump where I'm going to have to pay a couple $100 more. Not true. If oil goes to about $150 a barrel, to the average American,
that's economic destruction. Companies go out of business, and people get fired, mass layoffs. A lot of bad stuff happens.
American, that's an extra $16,000 to $18,000 a year that they got to find. Now that's going to play out in groceries. That's going to play out in logistical things. That's going to play out in airlines. You think the airlines are just going to sit idly by here and say, yeah, no problem, we'll eat the cost? No, they're not going to. So everything is going to get expensive. And then the Fed is going to have to look in the mirror and say, definitely, we're not lowering. We're either holding or we're holding and we're going on the way back up. And this is a problem. Now, the Americans have not thought this one through. They thought the Iranians would cave over. They could go in there, take this thing out, and we're going to run the oil market, and Bob's your uncle, and everybody's happy. But no. This is the Iranians. They know the financial markets. And I got to tell you guys, reading some of the government's responses to, the Trump administration cheerleading these markets on and then coming out mocking them 10 minutes after the financial markets open and say, nope, no deal. See you in the red, guys, because that's where your market's going. And look at today in the futures market, just before the market opened, it's not buying a single word of what he said yesterday.
Yep. Well, crashing market,
to say that Germany's
crashing economies. Let's look at what's happening in Germany.
Economy is experiencing a significant downturn would be an understatement. What Germany is experiencing right now is the worst performing period in years, with consecutive contractions in 2023 and in 2024, which makes it the only G7 nation to do.
Inflation's going to go up, and economic growth is going to go down.
So, structural issues, high energy costs, an aging workforce, and a slump in industrial production have driven this crisis. Fears of deindustrialization are no longer a conspiracy theory. It's a logical next step, you would agree. So Germany is now facing what industry leaders describe as its deepest crisis since the aftermath of the World War II. Recent forecasts show a sharp slowdown in growth, with projections cut from 1.3% to just 0.6% for the year. Economists warn that in a worst-case scenario, growth could actually fall even lower. On the flip side of this, at the same time, inflation is rising. It is expected to reach nearly 3% over the next 2 years. Needless to say, this combination of weak growth on one hand and then persistent price increases, this combination is placing significant pressure on households and businesses alike. A major driver of this downturn is the geopolitical global energy shock that is linked
linked to the Ukraine war and now the Iran war.
Directly to the United States and Israel attack on Iran. Disruptions to oil and gas flows, particularly through crude.
So basically, life sucks in Germany and it's going to get worse. And I'd say we should also look into what's going on in the private equity markets, which...
So you've probably...
Private equity panic, what you need to know. This market is probably the next shoe to drop, apart from what's going on in Iran. Iran's going to accelerate it, but...
We've seen the words private credit popping up on financial TV. Even Jim Cramer was tweeting about it this weekend. Some believe this might cause the stock market to completely unravel. But if you're like me, you're not really totally sure what's actually happening. You just know it sounds really bad. Well, I've spent the last few weeks pulling SEC files.
So this should be a good, easy summary for people to understand what private credit is. And because we're probably going to be hearing a lot more in the news about it soon.
Filings, I've read short seller reports, and I'm tracing exactly where the money actually flows. And in some ways, what I found is shocking. It's a system, and some people might even call it a machine, that works in 3 layers in order to make executives at these companies really rich. And once I show you how it works, the headlines are going to make a lot more sense. Because here's the thing, this machine, the architecture behind private credit, it actually isn't new at all. In fact, we've seen this unravel before. In 2008,
you don't want to hear references to 2008, do you? So apparently it's coming apart in private credit panic. Just show you. We'll get back to this video in one second.
Certain questions have to.
Oh, so many stuff I want to look at.
There's a key detail in all.
Breaking: 40% of investors can't get their money out of private credit funds.
All this, of course, it relates to Blue Owl. That's why I've got my blue shirt on today. But a key detail in all of this that most people are missing, And it's a big step up, big confirmation about the escalating situation we got in private credit right now. So if you haven't heard, Blue Owl just reported, or it was reported by Bloomberg, I think, first of all, that Blue Owl is facing unprecedented massive withdrawals from a couple of its funds, including one of the biggest private credit funds out there. These are unreal numbers. And like I said,
and so they put restrictions on getting your money out.
There's a key detail that I just put on the screen to spoil it a little bit that people are missing here. Powell was at Harvard, and he was asked about the situation in private credit in his first real comment.
So basically there are problems in private credit.
Private credit machine broke, and it took the entire global economy down with it. And that same architecture, that same thing is running again right now. But this time, it's not with mortgages, but with private credit. And the cracks you've been hearing about, the ones you've been seeing on TV, they're already showing. To understand what's happening right now in private credit, you have to understand how the machine works, because it works in 3 layers, and each layer has a job. So let's start with layer number 1. These are the originators. These are companies like SoFi, Upstart, and Lending Club. So these fintech lenders, they often use AI-driven underwriting to quickly and cheaply approve personal loans. So a personal loan is unsecured debt. There's no collateral required. It's literally just SoFi.
It's just as bad as subprime mortgages. It's worse because there's no tangible asset associated with it even.
Depositing money in your account with the idea that you'll pay them back. SoFi alone grew their personal loan originations by over 66% over the past year. And their charge-off rate, they claim it's under 3%. At least that's what they've told investors. More on that in a minute. Wall Street loved the story. SoFi stock went parabolic. The narrative was simple. Technology made lending smarter. The default rates would stay abnormally low.
Yes, just like subprime mortgage, pipe dream.
And everybody would make money. But here's the thing about fintech lenders, and this is really critical to understand about this whole story. They don't end up holding most of these loans that they make. They originate them, they collect a fee, and then they sell them to someone else, which brings me now to layer number 2. These are what I would call the packagers. Companies like Blue Owl Capital, you may have heard of them. Blue Owl runs funds that buy these loans from fintechs like...
Okay, I'm getting the picture now.
SoFi. Blue Owl then pulls these loans together, slices them into tranches.
That's basically exactly what they did with subprime mortgages.
And they sell the shares to investors. One of Blue Owl's funds, their alternative credit fund, has over $1 billion in assets. Now, I spent the weekend reading the entire SEC filing. Nearly half of the portfolio are these consumer personal loans. Now, here's where you, the investor, comes into the picture, and that is what I would call layer number 3, the investors. The people buying shares in these Blue Owl funds, they're chasing dividend yields, and they're trusting that the managers of these funds know what they're doing. In the case of Blue Owl, if the loans they bought from SoFi start to go bad at a higher rate than is expected, the entire fund would start to lose value. Now, this should sound familiar because in 2006 and 2000...
Now, put this in context of the Iran war, where prices are going to be going up. Consumers are going to have to spend more on pumps, and you have companies going to be doing a lot of layoffs because they're going out of business because recession. Yes, these private equity, private credit funds, yeah, it's going to be 2008 all over again. But it's going to take time. It takes time for that to work out. So this will start really hitting after the midterms, I think.
And 7, Countrywide originated mortgage, just like SoFi did. Lehman and Bear Stearns, they packaged them.
Because you have to think, like, the Iran war is delayed until the inflation that causes hits the consumer. And consumers don't immediately go bankrupt when prices go up. It starts to wear down their finance. And so they might start defaulting on loans a couple of months after the inflation hits. So, and then when they start defaulting on loan, there's like a month or two before that starts really showing up in these securities that are made from the loans. So all in all, you basically have 10-month delay between now start of the Iran war and the full impact hitting this private credit.
Something called CDOs. This is exactly what Blue Owl is doing. Pension funds or investors like yourself, even insurance companies bought the paper. But when the more
and then the first effects will start in 10 months, then that gets amplified as people start to panic about these effects coming in. And that means the 2026 crisis would just begin at the very end of the year. We're still a long way off. First things first, we should worry about inflation. That's the first thing that's going to hit us. The economic and the financial chaos, that's going to be at a later date. It'll probably be hitting at the same time as the food crisis hits us, where food prices spike and start having starvation around the world. Like in 10 months.
Mortgages started to go bad, the entire system collapsed. And just like last time, the cracks didn't start at the top. They actually start at the bottom. Now, on March 17th, a company called Muddy Waters Research, it's one of the most well-known short sellers on the planet, they dropped this 28-page report on SoFi. The title of it was "A Financial Engineering Treadmill Leaving Management Fat and Shareholders the Biggest Losers." It's a great title, but the allegations were specific. Muddy Waters claims SoFi's actual loss rate on its personal loans is 6.1%. That's more than double the 2.89% the company reports in their financial documents.
I finished reading that. This was before the charge-off threshold. Understating losses that feed into the fair value models, producing... okay.
More than double the 2.89% the company reports in their financial documents. They allege that SoFi is making its loan portfolio appear to be worth $2 billion more than it is actually worth. And that profit number Wall Street keeps celebrating over at SoFi, well, Muddy Waters says the real number is much lower. If that's true, shares of SoFi should be worth far less than even where they are at today. But here's the part nobody's really connecting. If even a portion of what Muddy Waters is alleging is true, if the loss rates on these personal loans is meaningfully higher than what SoFi is claiming, then the assets that they sold to Blue Owl that are in these funds, they are worth far less than what's being reported. So now I want to zoom out.
That's what problem. But so all these problems, that's before the Iran war effects hits, because those 6% loss, yeah, that's going to be like 12% in 10 months.
Now that you kind of have a little bit of the picture, I want to zoom out, because first, what's happening at Blue Owl is that the stock has crashed over 40% this year alone. Short sellers betting against Blue Owl just hit an all-time high. And in February, the company did something that sent shockwaves through the entire private credit industry. They permanently cut off investors from selling out of their funds. Investors saw what was happening underneath the surface and they wanted their money back. Withdrawal requests surged 200% at Blue Owl, and Blue Owl said no. Let me put that into perspective a little bit for you. Imagine putting your money into an investment. And when you did that, you were told you could get your money back out periodically. And then one day the manager of the fund just said, no, you can't get your money. That's exactly what happened. Now, this is not a normal event. It's really kind of like a bank run in slow motion, except Blue Owl is not a bank. It's a private credit fund. There's no government backstop. There's no FDIC insurance here. In fact, investors are starting to panic. Now, this is where most people stop paying attention. The headlines sound scary. Blue Owl, SoFi, and Upstart. I mean, these stocks are tanking. And the instinct is to really just look the other way and say this is nothing. But this is exactly where the story gets more interesting. It's called level 3 accounting, and nearly all of Blue Owl's funds fall into this category. Now, let me explain what this means.
What's
because
this?
It's actually kind of simple. Imagine you own a house. If your house is in one of these neighborhoods where all the homes are the same and they're constantly selling, well, you or your real estate agent knows within reason what your house is worth. You kind of look at what your neighbor's house sold for, and you've got a rough idea what yours would sell for. So I would call that level 1. There's a real market price for the asset that you have. Now, imagine if your house is in maybe a little bit quieter neighborhood. This is where the homes might be all custom. It's a little harder to find a comp, but it's not impossible. You can still get an estimate what your house is worth. That's level 2. But what if your house is completely unique, one of a kind? There's nothing like it that is ever sold. There is no comparable sale, if you will, anywhere. In this scenario, you get to decide what your house is worth. You pick a number, you list it for sale, and nobody can tell you that you're wrong because there's really nothing to compare it to. That's level 3. And that is what Blue Owl is doing with over $1 billion worth of consumer loans inside of their fund. These loans don't trade on an exchange. There's no stock ticker. There's no daily price. Blue Owl's own internal models decide what they...
Yeah, so unlike the financial crisis where these subprime mortgages were packaged into securities that were traded and sold. These aren't being traded and sold, so at least the recognition of the problem can be delayed a lot and hidden for a while.
They are worth. They get to pick the assumptions, things like how many borrowers they think will default on these loans. And the assumptions Blue Owl is making drives the entire valuation of the fund. Now, I want you to connect this back to what Muddy Waters just told us. If SoFi's actually...
Anyone who got their money out before they closed redemption probably made out very well, and everyone still in there is probably going to suffer horrible losses.
Full default rates are double what's being reported. But Blue Owl is using the lower...
And they'll be triple what's being reported, or quadruple soon because of the Iran war.
Numbers that SoFi has given them in their models, then the math just it doesn't work. These loans are worth way less.
By the way, thank you, America, for protecting the world and eliminating the thugs. Well, for trying to eliminate the thugs because replacing the Ayatollah by the new Ayatollah, that's son of the previous Ayatollah, I don't know if that's better. And we'll have to see how it goes. If it plays out like I think it is, I think the thugs are going to win. Because, oh my God. We'll see what happens tomorrow if there's a ground invasion like I dread.
Than what Blue Owl says they are. And here's what matters the most. If the assumptions about the loans are...
And welcome in, Piker 999.
The values of these Blue Owl funds are completely wrong. If the values are wrong, the total assets Blue Owl manages are way overstated. Now, why would Blue Owl want to overstate the amount of assets it's managing? Well,
obviously, tons of bonuses are probably... Yep, hello. Thanks for the follow. Lots of bonuses are tied to the valuation and how, like, the managers pay and everything. If they admit what it's really worth, they'd have to take a pay cut.
Well, that's an easy one. Blue Owl collects fees on the total assets, and the higher the assets are worth, the more fees the company gets to collect.
Exactly. Well, that's how it works.
This is where the story starts to get really uncomfortable. In its first year of operation, Blue Owl's private credit fund is already losing money. Investors who wanted to sell their shares had to do it below the original price. Think about that. Sophisticated investors are already trying to get out at a loss less than a year after investing. But here's the one that probably should bother every investor listening to this.
Anyone listening to this, if you have any shares in this, I would do that. Sell at a loss. And whatever that loss is, probably be less than whatever it ends up being if you hold.
Blue Owl is paying dividends to the investors in this fund. Now, that sounds great. You invest in the fund, you get a dividend. Except a portion of these dividends aren't coming from the profits from what the fund is earning. Instead, it's coming from the money investors put in. Blue Owl is taking a piece of the original investment.
That's the Ponzi scheme type structure right there.
And simply handing it back to you and calling it a dividend. But it's not a return on your money. This is a return of your money, and that's not what these investors signed up for. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not calling this the next Lehman Brothers. The scale in terms of dollar figures is...
I am calling it the next Lehman Brothers because of the Iran conflict. It'll take, but it's not right away. Not right away. It's going to be in this sort of like limbo for another probably year. In about a year from now is when it's really going to get bad, because my Iran war, the impacts of that on the economic growth slowing down, more people getting fired, prices going up, it's going to cause a huge spike in defaults. And this fund is already not functioning in the correct way, like paying out money from investors rather than, from the assets they're managing. So, and the longer they do that, the more the problems compound. So I'd say about a year from now, it's all hell is going to break loose. So, yeah, right now it's the point before the storm where you see the cliff coming. And if you're stuck in these funds, do whatever you can to get out. You're not at a loss. But next year is where you jump off the cliff.
Not there. Personal loans are not mortgages, but in some ways they're worse because at least with a mortgage, there's a home sitting somewhere.
Yes, with a mortgage, you'll get probably something back. You can seize the land and sell it and get something. With the personal loan, someone can just declare bankruptcy, you get nothing. It's you can't force someone to pay if they don't have any money. Yeah, they're judgment proof in that case. Let's see. In many of our countries, America has protected the world, bringing us technology, entertainment, and wealth. I love America so much. Yes, America has done a lot for the world. It's in some cases not done stuff that's not great, but it overall has been a positive force. And just this war with Iran is going to be not one of those occasions. I think it's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of people, and people will outright starve in millions, probably in Africa and other poor countries because of the fertilizers that aren't coming from the Gulf. That alone, it's going to be bad. If the Strait of Hormuz remain closed for like at least another 3-4 months, like I think, but it's going to be. We can just pray for the best, but let's wait for tomorrow and see if Trump does whatever ground invasion he's thinking of doing.
As collateral behind that loan. But the lessons from 2008 was that this was never about mortgages. It was never about housing. It was about what happens when you build a system where the people...
By the way, I love the dancing dino guy.
Making the loans aren't the ones holding the risk, where the people in the middle get to decide what those loans are worth, and where the people at the top collect fees based on those inflated valuations, whether the numbers are real or not. That is a system running right now in private credit. SoFi and Upstart, they get to make the loan.
Basically, don't put any money into this private credit if you're thinking of it. And if you have money there, see if you can get out, even if you have to maybe take a little bit of a loss now. This, with the Iran war and the impact that's going to have, and it's going to have an impact. How big an impact we can still see. It might, on the optimistic side, it'll be a smaller impact, but it will have an impact. And these defaults and all these things will be up. So, yeah, I would get out of that. Anyway. Let's see. I want to know here what this is.
Who's asking them, right? Yeah. One of the questions I still can't answer is why is it that all the neocons are the ones leading the screaming and anyone who asks questions about Charlie Kirk's death when Charlie Kirk was an enemy of the neocons, like open enemy of the neocons, invited you to TPUSA. Like, you don't invite, and he didn't. It's not because the kids at TPUSA are like, oh, I grew up loving Dave Smith.
Yeah. Well, I said that. I've said this on other shows too, but I said this to you, that it's like there was something about inviting you or Megyn Kelly. It's like,
we're on Fox News. It's fine.
If Charlie Kirk had lived, the Iran war most likely wouldn't have happened. And so it's another reason why I want to watch this video.
And huge
famous
stars on Fox News. Right. Not just like someone on Fox News, like two of the biggest
There's no reason to invite you to a Turning Point event unless he wants the kids in the audience to hear your views.
Yeah.
He did because he subsequently...
And he had huge impact on influence on President Trump, Charlie Kirk, because he played a huge role in Trump's reelection. People are saying, oh, the Israeli lobby had huge impact. He was bought by the... Well, Charlie Kirk had just as much influence as the Israeli lobby because he played just as big as a role, if not more, than money from Jewish millionaires. He was in a position to say, Trump, don't do this Iran war. He could have stopped it.
Read with them. And I would know because I talked about this a lot over years. So for the neocons, whom he at best didn't trust and mostly really didn't like, I never talk about what I think Charlie thought because it feels so weird because he's gone. But I just have to say this. They're the ones leading the charge on shut up. Don't ask any questions. Like, you tell me what this is.
Well,
and I'm not going to take orders from them. Who are these people anyway?
This is the same reason why. This is the reason why I read that text message that he sent me, and it was because, well, part of it was because Candace asked, and
it's I think at the time his assassination didn't make sense to me. I didn't see why do it now after Trump's election. If they wanted killing Charlie Kirk before Trump was election, It might have hurt his election chances. But why do that like after that? It didn't make sense to me at the time. Now, with the context of this Iran war being prepared and Charlie Kirk being the only one in a position to stop this Iran war, and he would have stopped it, I'm sure, because he had enough influence over Trump, and he would have told him it won't be a 3-day war. Just someone like him going into the White House telling Trump it won't be a 3-day war would have made such difference. Yes, I wanted his death to be invested 10 times more now.
I'm friends with Candace, and she lost someone she was very close to. But part of it was that, because it's a weird thing to do. It's a weird thing to share private text messages with anyone, especially someone who just died. And I got some pushback for that, and I understand why people, I get their point. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm not sure, but it was the thing where like Netanyahu immediately is trying to hijack his legacy. Josh Hammer and all these guys are immediately trying to hijack his life. And so it's kind of like
selling their books.
Right. Literally, dude, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Josh Hammer did 3 interviews immediately after. The only reason anyone's interviewing him is because he was friends with Charlie Kirk, or he was close around his circle or whatever. And every single time he mentioned how much Charlie loved his book. It's like, Jesus, dude. I mean, I just could never imagine getting
a little strong.
Everybody, the last
Charlie was friends with Josh Hammer.
Well, okay. Well, he had him in his circles or whatever, his handler or whatever it was. But I remember, right before Charlie died, he called me and he said, "Man, I just wish everyone would listen to your podcast." It's so crazy of a thing to say.
Unbelievable.
But the reason I released
that's disgusting behavior.
Because I'm like, look, I don't know exactly where Charlie was on his evolution on this topic. Obviously, he had at one point been a diehard pro-Israel guy, but a lot of people were that and then kind of woke up over the last couple of years. But I know that he texted me after my debate with Douglas Murray that he said he thought I did a great job, and he really did. He said something like, I read it verbatim on my show, but he said something like, believe it or not, I really didn't disagree with almost anything you said. Yeah. And I'm just saying, Ben Shapiro wasn't sending me that text.
No.
So for people to try to pretend there was no daylight between the two of them is just not true.
No, there was hostility.
Right.
Big time. And not just with, those guys. Hostility. I mean, I don't want to overstate it. I'm not saying he hated them as people, but I mean, he did not agree at all. And
certainly didn't agree with war with Iran.
Oh,
at
sure.
All.
At
and
all.
with also, honestly, some of the Christian Zionist leaders. I mean, Charles he loved Israel as a country, for sure. And I think he had a complicated theology, which I did not fully understand and still don't fully understand. But the idea that you would put another country before your own, like he just rejected that flat out. And some of those, some of the Christian Zionist leaders, are very aggressive and shark-like and very money-oriented and pushy.
And he started talking about that openly.
Well, he talked about it with me a lot.
Yeah. Well, he talked about it on Megyn Kelly's show. I mean, talked about the reaction he got
from the evangelical leaders.
Well, maybe not from the evangelical.
It was a mixture.
Yeah, probably a mix
of Jewish Zionists like the guys you mentioned, but also the people he grew up with who were evangelical leaders. And he was upset with them. I mean, I talked to him about it at length. I could name names, but he was upset. I'm not going to, but because he's gone. But yeah, that's just real. And I don't know. I don't even like talking about this, but I'm just offended by where this is going. And the bottom line is every American has an interest in every murder getting solved. And not just in getting solved, but fully solved.
Yeah.
And if you have a government agency that's shutting down a legitimate line of inquiry, at very least you have to answer the question, why are you doing that? And Joe Kent has said in public multiple times, including to me, the FBI shut down any effort to look into international connections here within days of the killing. So someone should ask the FBI, why'd you do that?
To hide the truth.
And no one seems willing to ask.
And look, we also know what we know about this FBI, who I just could not be more disgusted with. And, I know you saw when...
Everyone's afraid of them.
Well, what Dan Bongino was talking all types of shit to me on Twitter or whatever, but it's like, look, man, there was a thing where people were saying they were trying to goat Dan Bongino into debating me because he was talking shit about me. And, I think I responded in kind. But the thing is, he can't. Dan Bongino, not only can he not come debate me, Dan Bongino can't ever do a difficult interview ever again for the rest of his life because he's ended in one question. Literally one question ends it. I just go, hey, okay, so you looked the American people in the eyes and you swore that you had seen the proof that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Well, it's been declassified by an act of Congress now, so go ahead and tell us. What'd you say? What's the proof? It's all declassified now.
Yeah.
What it doesn't what are the few exceptions in the rule? If it's national security or if it harms the victims or something like that, how would it possibly be any of those for you to just tell me what you saw that made you comfortable enough to go out there and swear that you had seen proof that he killed himself? Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, but these guys specifically, and this is one of the big things I think that
I just want to interject.
No,
this is not aiming at anyone in particular, but we say we.
I suspect this person is a double agent serving the United States while deceiving an adversary nation. Are you talking about the guy Tucker is interviewing, or Tucker, or someone else? Who do you mean, Pitcher 9999?
we know things, but I would always add the caveat to the extent you can know things. Like,
of course,
I've known many things. I've turned out to be wrong, so I could be wrong, but this is sincere. I believe.
This guy. Possibly, so far I'm taking him at face value. It's possible he hasn't said anything that seems extreme to me so far, so.
I can say with certainty that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. But of course, I'm always open to countervailing evidence. Always.
Right. So okay, about Epstein, you have to take most likely scenario. He was murdered. That is, as far as everything I know and things, that is the most likely scenario. It's more than 50% chance in my mind. It does not guarantee this happened. He could still be alive, as some conspiracy theories say. Or there's a tiny 1% or, I don't know, more chance that he actually killed himself. But the common sense, as far as I'm concerned, based on all the evidence, is, yeah, he was murdered.
My capacity for being wrong. But I can say if you could x-ray my heart, you would find that I believe with total certainty he was murdered and the people in the U.S. government knew that he was murdered. I don't want that to be true, but I believe it is true. So, it's going to take a lot. You're going to have to show me that that's false.
Inflation makes credit card statements particularly...
Yep. But I definitely want Charlie Kirk's murder fully investigated, which doesn't appear to be happening. I'm not going to watch much of this, but I'm just going to pause and highlight. Apparently, there's something going on with regard to aliens. I do not believe in aliens. I know that they've been pushed since the Kennedy assassination. I'll bring up this little graphic. So, this is searching Google Archive News. The term first started right around after Kennedy's assassination, and it's been going on ever since. There was no mention of UFO ever before that, and it's been ever since that. It's been used to attack anyone who, you don't believe in the magic bullet that caused 7 different wounds and changed direction 3 times, and that's how we are explaining the Kennedy assassination. Okay, well then you must be one of those weird people that believes in UFOs. That is, as far as I'm concerned, what aliens are used for, is to discredit anyone who doesn't believe in the government. And stuff. So I'm sure whatever comes out, I don't think there's ever be convincing proof of the UFOs. It'll all be, I don't think this is a crash ship or anything like that.
Second member of Congress has now come out and stated they have received briefings on aliens, and if the American people knew what was going on, they would become unglued.
Yes, this right here is why people end up believing aliens. It's always stuff like this. I remember it was like 100 generals, 10 years ago, came forwards and said, they're covering up aliens. It's government whistleblowers. There is a big effort by, I think, U.S. intelligence agencies to make anyone who is skeptical of the government, who doesn't trust the government, who thinks the media lies, to target those people and make them believe in UFOs. And then they can easily be discredited. And I think this is part of it. They want Tim Pool telling his audience, there's this, they're saying there's aliens. The Congress people, what is it? These Congress people say, if you knew what we knew, you would be amazed. Yeah, that's exactly what intelligence agencies
broadly speaking.
Let's jump to this story for maybe.
Yeah, I think this is going to be bad news. So
57. Illinois Attorney General vows to fight President Trump executive order on mail-in voting. They say
mail-in voting is rife for fraud. I want a safe act. I want our election secure. Mail-in. I think they manipulate outcome results by 2 or 3%, or maybe even more, through mail-in voting, and it completely undermines democracy. And I don't mean always in favor of Democrats. You have establishment Republicans, people that are on Deep State's good list. They get extra votes too. So it's not only in favor of Democrats; it's in favor of corruption.
Say that the president signed an executive order. Now, for those that missed this, we talked about it yesterday. It requires DHS to create a list of all U.S. citizens eligible to vote, and then instructs the post office not to send out any mail-in ballots to individuals who are not eligible. And that is within his authority. Now they're vowing to fight this and sue him over it, which is where things get really interesting. If this works, this is Trump salvo number 1. Republicans win everything.
I don't think this is going to work.
Why not?
Yeah, it's yeah. If we had free and fair elections in the United States, I think Republicans would have an overwhelming advantage. But if this Iran war ends up being as bad as I think, it could counteract this executive order because the amount of inflation and pain and unhappiness with Trump, it could counteract the amount of fake votes the Democrats are losing. They'll get a lot of real ones because of unhappiness with Trump.
Because historically, it's the states that decide the criterions for who gets to vote. That's going to be their argument.
And that's the
I'm not against him.
No, hold on. Yes, but he's not telling the states they can't. He's saying the post office cannot deliver them. Now, that is within federal jurisdiction.
But the result, they're going to argue, and I think they're easily going to win, that the consequence is the same.
They're not going to win legitimately, but if your argument is the judges in the local judges will be corrupt,
yes, right.
Well, I mean, if that's the argument is simply corrupt Democrats will do whatever they want.
That's what it is.
But here's the argument Trump is making. He will have members of the post office prosecuted if they do.
He won't.
Yes, he will.
I agree that he won't actually do anything.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it goes back to the problem we presented in the previous segment that Republicans just complain. Democrats are lighting things on fire while Republicans review the contract.
Even if he tries to get
yeah, that's
even if they try to do any kind of prosecuting or whatever, like there's going to be a judge somewhere that's going to put an injunction on it immediately.
There's what is it, Curtis
the
Yarvin
deep
quote?
state control
That
is deep.
Republicans treat power the way an alcoholic. Republicans treat power the way a wine snob treats alcohol, and Democrats treat power the way an alcoholic treats alcohol.
Yeah. And this is why the Democrats are often going to win.
Yep.
But I think also to your point, I don't think there's the MAGA vision, even though Trump got 51%.
I will say that when the dollar collapse eventually happens, and maybe let's say a lot of the Democrat shenanigans get exposed. I think the people rigging the elections in favor of Democrats, like doing all this mail-in ballot, some of them are going to. Let me put it this way: I think the United States won't be in a place where it can afford to put people in jail anymore. At that, they won't have the money, and capital cut punishment will look like a cost-saving measure, and so. A lot of people are going to end up, I would not be committing, just my personal advice if you're a Democrat, I would not be committing voter fraud nowadays because we're getting towards the end and there's going to be a reckoning towards all those on deep state, like these corrupt judges. And I would try to switch careers if you're into voter fraud.
100% of those voters were MAGA.
49.8.
Not all those voters are MAGA voters.
Right.
What does it mean to be MAGA?
But
Trump supporter.
I'm sorry. They might have preferred Trump to Officer Harris, but they didn't sign on for all this stuff. They're not ideological.
DEI Officer
look
Harris.
at Joe Rogan.
So the point is, he's got a lot less wiggle room than people expect him to enact things.
Yep.
And that's a problem.
And this is the problem with the right in general. The left is a cult, and
it's a cult because the media is. It basically believes in media. They've been heavily propagandized, and they are completely disconnected from reality in a lot of cases. I think I'm going to end it here for today. This will be on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.